Can everybody hear me? Good. So I am David Johnson. I'm a principal program manager in what was Microsoft's IT organization. We're now called Core Services Engineering, but basically the same function. We are IT within Microsoft itself, and some of the same problems you have, we probably have as well. And we're, of course, not only are we dealing with the same governance issues, we're also dealing with a product which is a little more advanced because we are our first customer. We tend to roll our stuff out to us first as we go. I'll talk a little bit about how we govern and think about protection of kind of what I consider as containers within the company. So, first of all, as IT, you're kind of pulled in a lot of different directions. You've got legal asking you for legal compliance, retention, e-discovery. You have to be security compliant. You've got to protect our assets, of course, as a company. But the big challenge is, if we're not really careful, our employees are going to work around IT. They're going to go ahead and use consumer services or something that, as IT, we don't want. So we have to make sure we're empowering our employee and we're making the business successful in terms of what the business needs to do, but being pulled in those directions, doing all those other things. And I think that's why governance for us, fundamentally, we're trying to balance all this stuff and just deliver it all, which gets interesting. So, just to give you some scope of what we have, we're big. We've got a lot of stuff. We've got roughly 250,000 SharePoint sites between classic SharePoint, portals, communication sites, group-connected SharePoint sites, many of those. In fact, there's 185,000 of those now. I bring this up to say, when I think about governance, I govern all this. I govern all these SharePoint sites, classic and modern. I govern Yammer, we govern Teams, we govern Outlook connected groups. And we have to think about how we manage all this stuff. But our core principle here is how do we think about that successfully, empowering our employees while doing the right thing. So a big guiding principle for us is self-service. You know, it's a conversation I have with a lot of people around why are you comfortable letting all these SharePoint sites spin up? How do you manage sprawl? How do you think about the protection of all this stuff? And I think of it as, yes, we have to think through that, but at the same time, if I don't give that team or new project a place for them to give their site, their space, their whatever they need, they're going to go off and use some consumer service or something they shouldn't use. And from an IT perspective, when you think about e-discovery and retention and everything else, you get stuck. So we have to make sure that we're empowering our employees, we're enabling self-service. So that's a kind of a critical thing for that. At the same time, obviously, I'm going to protect my assets we've got around us. We're also going to make sure our employees are aware of what to do and when, what tool to use and why. And a lot of this, when I think about governance, the governance landscape has changed a bit. Because previously, we thought of governance, and we did SharePoint governance uniquely, and we did DL governance and security group governance. Now, a lot of the governance gets more consistent with Office 365 groups. And so when I think about governance, a big part of it now is I govern the group itself, which is a pretty big change for us because we're not just governing SharePoint anymore. So we're kind of governing the common group platform. And I'm not going to talk about this slide because this is really the group session tomorrow that, The group session tomorrow is going to go into this, and I thought I had a group code on here, which doesn't seem to be here now, but this session tomorrow on Office 365 and admin of groups will go into a lot more detail on groups overall. But the reason I bring this up from a governance perspective is governance is going to be foundational to how do I deal with this group construct, which is effectively that membership construct behind that modern SharePoint site, behind the Teams, behind a modern Yammer, behind the Outlook connected group. The nice thing about it is I've got one construct which manages it all. So I can think about lifecycle management, I can think about the ownership policies, I can think about classification at the group level. I can do a lot at the group. And when I think about kind of the environment of Microsoft overall, you know, this is just a simple summary view of types of things we're managing, where you think about the company portal and the intranet at the top level, the divisional stuff, which is probably connected to Yammer groups, the individual team sites that exist, the individual team backed by Microsoft Teams, or working with Microsoft Teams to kind of empower that teamwork. We want to make sure that all of these things are here and available for our employees, and we want to make sure that understanding that these things have to have some coordination to them. Like one of the things that we think about governance now is we think about how do we bring things together? How do I think about disparate teams and team sites together? And one of the things we're using now as a construct is the hub construct to say, okay, here's a whole pile of of sites that belong to HR or to our services organization, they're going to be a hub. So we'll make sure that all those sites and teams can connect to that hub, and therefore we can deal with them there. And one of the things that the SharePoint team showed today is how we can manage the hub level too. But part of governance is also what we think about a lot of different types of governance within Microsoft. We think about solution governance and how we manage apps against our tenancy, because obviously people build SharePoint add-ins and web parts and Office add-ins and Teams now solutions. So we want to make sure we have ability to manage across the space of what kind of things are running against our tenancy. At the same time, we want to make sure we're providing search governance and discovery governance or whatever top destinations within the company. But the big focus for us is really the security governance to protect our content, as well as the container governance to manage lifecycle management for our stuff. And when I think about that, I think of it in kind of a few key things. One is how we enable the self-service, that I'm going to enable those employees to provision those sites on demand, those teams, those Yammer groups as they need to. At the same time, I'm going to hold those employees accountable. I'm also going to have some business rules around that I'm only going to allow a Microsoft full-time employee to create a group or a site. Basically, within Office 365 groups, I can specify the group of the people that are allowed to create things, and we specify this dynamic group, including all full-time employees, are allowed to create groups. If you're not a full-time employee, you won't be allowed because I can't hold you accountable as easily. So that's one of our core guiding principles. Along the same lines, we're using the Azure Active Directory lifecycle management tooling to be able to say groups have an expiration, and I'll show a little bit about that in a minute. But point being that I give you something because you've asked for it, you need it, but I'm going to make sure I'm holding you accountable for it. I'm going to treat you as a data custodian for it, and if you don't renew it, I'm going to take it away. Unless, of course, it's under retention, in which case I may keep it, because maybe there's some legal reason this thing's going to stick around. But the vast majority of the self-service environment is not going to be under retention. It's simply going to be made available for the employee as they need it. And when they no longer need it, we're going to take it away from them. At the same time, I'm going to manage the classification. I'm going to ask for an employee to classify or effectively in the future label a group, whether it's with SharePoint or Teams or Yammer. I want to know what kind of content is in that group because I want to know how to protect it. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And labels are only going to get better with groups. Today, some of that is custom for us. We're using the AD group construct for classification. We're populating that, but then we're doing some additional policy jobs on top to manage it. A lot of that's going to get easier in product coming up fairly soon, too. We also, of course, apply protections to all this stuff, which I won't get into too much, but point being here that based on the group classification, for example, let's say I've classified my team as highly confidential, and this is our classification scheme within Microsoft. If I classify my teams or my SharePoint as highly confidential, then I'm going to turn off some features for it. I'm going to say this SharePoint site is no longer allowed to be shared externally. This Teams is no longer allowed to be public. This Yammer group is no longer allowed to be public. If it's highly confidential, it's meant to be kept confidential, let's treat it as such. Those are things the product will do as well in the future. I think Navjot showed that earlier today, but at the same time, we're having jobs which basically run and do that on top of the group's infrastructure already. But point being, classify the groups and sites that you have. For us, this is a big thing. And one of the things that we think about with this is we wanted to keep the labels really simple. One of the things we had historically at Microsoft was we had this really complex naming scheme of high business impact and medium business impact. And everyone would always say, well, of course my content is high business impact. If it wasn't, why am I working on it? So it was the wrong way to think about it. Whereas reality, it's all about confidentiality. And we wanted people to think about confidentiality, so we wanted to make sure the classification scheme was clear. And so we go all the way up from that highly confidential to general, which for us is basically internal only, meaning a piece of content obviously should not be shared broadly within the company, which is why we run those jobs against it. So some basic things that we do across groups, because we obviously manage a lot of different aspects of this. We manage, I mentioned earlier, for lifecycle management, we've got that 180-day policy around it. So if an owner doesn't renew, we're going to delete. And I'll show how that works in a minute. But at the same time, we're doing those basic policy management on top to say we're looking for to find groups that don't have an appropriate owner. We're looking for groups that may not be classified at all. So we're running some jobs on top to look for the groups that we have. But fundamentally, since I'm governing at the group level, a vast majority of my spaces, my teams, my groups can therefore get managed centrally. I still have classic SharePoint I manage differently, but for most of the modern stuff, group connected stuff, it gets really easy. Or I should say easier. So first of all, is setting up that classification. Now this is the old way to do it in PowerShell, that we could configure the classification scheme against CAD. In fact, when that's done, SharePoint will then show at provisioning time, or Teams will show up at provisioning time what the classification scheme is. Teams will show the same thing, Outlook groups will show the same thing. Nice thing being that the workloads will collect the classification for you. You don't have to do anything. The nice thing about this is it's going to get easier, that you'll be able to configure this in the Security and Compliance Center in the future. You won't have to use PowerShell to actually configure what your classification scheme is. But point being, configure the classification scheme, we enable us to collect what people are considering the content. And the reason this is so important versus file-based labeling is what we find is employees don't often label at the file level. Now, of course, we can use the new tooling to actually detect and find content that should be classified based on pattern, but at the same time, we find projects are classified based on a certain purpose. This is a top secret project. Great, let's treat it as such. This is a merger and acquisition project. Great, let's treat it as highly confidential. So, understanding that even if you're not classifying at the file level, we're dealing with basic protections at the container level, at the group level, and that's how we're thinking about this. At the same time, we want to manage that lifecycle management I mentioned earlier. So going into the Azure AD again to configure what does that lifecycle management policy look like. So for us, we're doing a 180-day policy to deal with that. We also have this notion that says, with that policy, it basically sends out an email at group, 30 days before group expiration to say, owner, your group is about to expire. If you take no action, then we will delete the group. There's a notification sent at 30-day, 15-day, and 1 day as a final notice. If you still take no action, you get a final kind of alert saying, hey, your group was just deleted. You can restore it. Meaning, again, that I've got this life cycle, but I've got protection baked in so that owner, if they did miss it, if they missed the comms from the system, they can restore the group if they need to. So it's not all or nothing. They can bring it back. They can also call IT if they need to bring it back too, because obviously a tenant admin can restore a group as well. But point being, we want to do the lifecycle management across all our stuff. So then we come to the file protection part of this, and it goes along with the information protection I mentioned earlier. We want to make sure we're asking our employees to classify the container itself, absolutely, but we also want to make sure we're looking for things that aren't classified using DLP and other information protection policies to find the things that got missed potentially, and then flag them and block them from sharing. So either using Azure Information Protection to say, let's protect the file, or using DLP to find those patterns and again, block the file from being saved or shared externally outside of the company. Because another big thing that we do here, and we'll talk about that tomorrow, is we actually do enable external sharing and external membership on our groups by default. So if you create a new team within Microsoft, by default, we have external sharing, external membership turned on. We only turn it off if we determine that that site is highly confidential, or you specified it as highly confidential. If so, we automatically will turn that off. One of the nice things is the product will do that in the future. The labeling was announced, but right now we have PowerShell running to say, hey, we've detected new groups, we detected changes of groups. Let's go ahead and make sure we're actually setting those, configuring the group to say, let's remove those settings. So things like public versus private, things like external sharing, external membership, the things you want to control at the container level. Oh, plus, of course, one of the things a product will do is conditional access. That says, if you want to make sure this group or this SharePoint site is not available on an untrusted device, great. The conditional access policy will kick in based on that same label at the container level too. So the first thing I'd say is, the thing that we think about, we learned is, look, labeling at the container level was actually a bigger deal than I think a lot of people thought. That it not just file-based labeling, but container-based labeling, SharePoint-based labeling, Teams labeling, label the team itself. Clearly, you're going to have exceptions to that. You're going to have people who have a general team and they want one file that's more highly confidential. But at the same time, we'd say, look, because you're going to apply additional protections on that stuff, don't necessarily commingle it. Go create a new space, a new group for that content. It's a better place to be, better protections applied. Of course, you can protect in place, but we often find employees make mistakes. Employees will drop a highly confidential file, or try to, on a wide open SharePoint site and not realize their mistake until it's too late. So we want to make sure that people know that, look, if you're working with highly confidential data, go put it in a highly confidential container. So first thing we say is, think about that classification scheme as we go. So we also think about the, basically the trust but verify approach, sorry. The trust but verify, that we want to make sure that get the classification at creation time, but verify that it was accurate. Verify that your employees did the right thing. So that was another kind of big theme for us. So I think, again, these are all kind of components of things that we do, but let me actually go back one slide, because the summary of this summary here, just of the policies that we run here, kind of tells a story of these are all the things that we run against our tenancy from a job perspective. And this is, of course, above and beyond the AIP and DLP configuration we have on our tenancy. But these are the things we basically do at the group layer. And we do very similar things with just SharePoint sites. If we have a classic or non-group connected SharePoint site, we'll do our own lifecycle management. The SharePoint itself, fortunately, with new modern communication sites, we'll use that same classification scheme to classify a modern communication site. So it's nice that even if it's not a group, it'll still use that schema and allow you to classify and therefore do what you want to do. But then we run those same tools against that stuff. So these are all things we do. We also do things like look for orphan groups, because one of the things we find is, obviously we want to hold an employee accountable. If there's no employee, who are we going to look for? So we look for groups that have no full-time employee owner, and we reach out to those groups to say, there's no owner anymore, this group is going to be deleted because lifecycle management is going to run on ahead and delete this thing if no one renews it. We need to find a new owner. So we'll do things like orphan group renewals and things like that. So I'm actually running a little ahead. Any kind of top-of-mind questions from people in the audience? Sorry? No? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So I understand that you do the content protection on the SharePoint site level rather than on the per document level. But are you using Azure information protection there, or are you using other protection methods?
No, it's a good question. So it's a couple parts of that. I'd say we're doing both. So number one, we're doing it at the container level, the SharePoint site level, the group level, because we know at provisioning time, that's the one thing we can enforce. We can say, you know what, no matter what, we're collecting a classification when we're creating that SharePoint site. So we're creating a team, it's going to have a classification applied. So we're definitely going to get that there. So, but at the file level, that doesn't rule that out. We're still going to say, when you save files, we have Azure information protection policies applied internally within Microsoft to say, hey, based on what's in the document, we may make recommendations, we may auto-classify. So for example, this deck, was when I tried to save it, it auto-classified it as highly confidential because guess what? It has the words highly confidential in it. Clearly that was wrong and I had to override that. But point being, the detection kicked in to say, hey, this is how this should be protected. And then it let me override and say, you know what? No, this is general. I'm just going to leave it as general. Because at the end of the day, this is clearly a not highly confidential content. I'm presenting it. But that said, we're doing the DLP capabilities. We're using Azure Information Protection when I'm saving a file to look and detect what kind of content is in the file. And again, these things are only going to get better. As a new SharePoint and labeling constructs come out, a lot of these things are going to fit together. Like today, I label at the file level with Azure Information Protection. I label at the group level with the Azure ID, but they're two different label schemas. The only reason they're the same is we've made them the same because we purposely wanted to say our employees should use a schema which made sense to them. But at the same time, this is something that is not yet consistent. So the nice thing about labeling in the product is it's going to get easier. So hopefully I answered that question, but net is we're doing both, but foundational on the SharePoint at the site collection level. Yeah, you're welcome. So I know I'm just about out of time. Any kind of final questions? Yes.
So do you have a naming convention policy, and how do you enforce it?
Another great question, because naming convention is one of those things that it's debatable whether you do that one or not. Because I think when you think of naming policy, there's a good and bad about it. Like we would say, look, all sites associated with services, for example, or HR should all get named this way. That's nice at first, and then you realize the name is now in Teams, is now in SharePoint in the URL. It makes it harder for people to navigate. So one of the things we decided to do is not force prefix sites. We do look for basically the blocked words list when we're provisioning, but we're not actually doing a naming policy at that level. Instead, one of the things we're doing now, especially for SharePoint hubs, is saying provision the site underneath a hub, and then we can apply the appropriate things. We're using the site templates in the SharePoint site to that site that's under the hub to say, hey, this is now a new services site, for example, let's inherit the services constructs for this site. And at the same time, because I now have all this stuff associated with a hub, the new SharePoint admin will let me see all the hub, all the sites under the hub too. So I can use a hub kind of in the SharePoint world as an aggregation construct to bring the division back together again. So again, not a perfect story, but we made a choice not to do naming prefixes, for example, at name time. So I hope you found this valuable. There were other, as I mentioned earlier, there are some other great group sessions coming up this week. I just want to mention Christoph's because a lot of his stuff is coming in the group side. So the first, later on, actually tomorrow, is the group session, I think at the Hyatt Regency there. So definitely check out some of the group sessions. There's a lot of admin sessions too, obviously DLP and AIP sessions, information protection overall. A lot of good content this week. But point being that we I think got a lot of value out of a policy management, but we did do custom. It wasn't completely out of a box. And so as IT, you have to obviously get comfortable with where you can do for product and where you want to augment the product. We did. We expect you to, where you need to. Clearly the products are going to get better in that front, but obviously today you might need to customize a little bit to get what you want. So hopefully this is valuable, and please do rate the session and give us our feedback about all this. I'd start with, by the way, I forgot to say this part, is start to think about enabling self-service. What does it mean to enable self-service for your organization? Because there's a lot of value there. I want to start by also say, look, think about what kind of classification schema you might have as you go. So all things to think about. So obviously, this is IT Showcase level session, so please, if you have any questions or follow-ups or requests of Microsoft's IT organization, let them know via the Showcase alias, or of a contact, and we can obviously help work with you directly if you have more questions about any of this stuff. So please do rate though. Thank you.